A school was about to be built on this ground. Then workers opened the earth and exposed the remains of a buried Roman complex beneath the site. At first, it looked like another excavation. Then, the layout stopped making sense. Then, inside a well, archaeologists found a human skeleton beside a bronze goddess and a carved dedication. Now the mystery is no longer what was buried here. It is what happened here before the city forgot it ever existed. This is not just the story of a buried Roman site. It is the story of a vanished city, an enormous sanctuary unlike anything experts expected to find in this part of the Roman world. And one discovery so unsettling that even now the evidence refuses to settle into a clean answer. Because beneath a modern neighborhood in Frankfurt, archaeologists did not uncover a single shrine. They uncovered a place people kept returning to, a place built, expanded, used, and filled over time. A place that may have ended in a way no one ever wrote down. Long before this part of Frankfurt became streets, housing, and construction plans, it was home to an ancient Roman city called Nida. People lived there, traded there, traveled through it, and built places they believed the gods could hear them. Then the city faded. Its people disappeared into history. Its buildings collapsed. Its name survived only in fragments. And eventually, the living world above replaced the dead one below. That is what makes this story feel so wrong. This was not a lost ruin in a desert. It was buried under ordinary life, under a neighborhood, under a school site. For centuries, people crossed this ground with no idea that beneath them sat the remains of a place once treated as sacred. A place the earth kept hidden long after memory failed. When archaeologists opened the site, the scale changed everything. This was not one small structure. It was a walled, sacred district covering more than 4,500 square meters. 11 stone buildings, dozens of shafts, multiple pits filled with deposits left behind over generations. This was not random debris. This was organized space, repeated action, a place people returned to again and again. And that matters, because the moment you understand the scale, the story stops being about ruins and starts becoming about behavior. Whatever happened here was not isolated. It belonged to a system, to a pattern, to a place important enough that people kept feeding it objects, food, ritual, and belief for years. Then came the first real break in the pattern. The sanctuary did not look the way experts expected it to look. Its layout was so unusual that researchers said it had no known parallel in the nearby Roman provinces of Germania and Gaul. That is where the story stops feeling comfortably archaeological and starts feeling unstable. Because once a site no longer fits the pattern, every detail gets heavier. Now the question is not just what this place was, it is why it was built this way. Why this city had a sacred district this large. Why its structures were arranged so differently. Why a place at the edge of the empire seems to have developed a religious center that does not behave the way the map says it should. And when a site refuses to fit the known world, it usually means one thing: the known world is incomplete. But the ruins only become powerful when you remember they were never built to be ruins. They were built for people. Researchers recovered thousands of fragments of painted wall plaster, along with bronze fittings from doors and windows. That means this place was not raw stone and open dirt. It had color, shape, thresholds, rooms designed to affect the people entering them. Then came the deposits, ceramic vessels, plant remains, animal remains, including fish and birds, the traces of sacred meals and offerings. That is the moment the site stops feeling abstract, because now you can sense the people who came here, the sick, the fearful, the hopeful, the grateful, the desperate. People carrying food in their hands, objects on their bodies, and worries they could not solve anywhere else. Something was brought here. Something was eaten here. Something was left behind here. And for a long time, people believed this place mattered enough to return to it again and again. Then came the well. And the well changes everything. Inside it, archaeologists found a bronze statuette of Diana, a dedication to Mercury Alatheus, dated September 9th, 246 CE, and a human skeleton. That combination is what gives this site its dark center, because none of those things on their own carry the same force, but together, in the same place, inside a sacred complex already unlike the others, they create a question that refuses to go away. Coins found in the fill suggest the well was not closed before 249 CE. So whatever this means, it belongs to the sanctuary's final known phase. Late, close to the end, not some vague beginning lost in prehistory. Something happened here after this place had already been sacred for generations. And that is what makes the discovery feel less like ancient distance and more like a final scene no one survived to explain.
This is where weaker scripts start lying. They say the mystery is solved. They say human sacrifice is proven. That is not what the evidence says. Researchers describe the possibility of human sacrifice here as exceptional, but still a possibility, not a closed case. And that restraint is exactly what makes the story stronger. Because certainty gives you closure, uncertainty does not. Maybe the skeleton has an explanation that is ritual, but not sacrificial. Maybe something happened in the sanctuary's final years that no surviving record preserved. Maybe this was a deliberate act. Maybe it was the aftermath of one. The honest answer is that we do not know. And sometimes that is worse than knowing. Because a solved mystery lets the mind settle. This one keeps moving. What was found beneath Frankfurt matters for more than one reason. It forces a different picture of Roman frontier life. Places like this are often imagined as secondary, distant, almost peripheral to the real heart of the empire. But Nida was not peripheral. It was one of the most important urban centers in Roman Germania on the right bank of the Rhine. And this sanctuary may have stood at the center of its spiritual life. That changes the scale of the story. This was not a forgotten corner doing a poor imitation of Rome. This was a city with its own religious complexity, its own sacred geography, and a cult district important enough to leave behind architecture, offerings, inscriptions, and traces of repeated ritual over generations. Then it was abandoned. By around 275 to 280 CE, Nida was gone as a living city. Its memory thinned out, its structures sank into silence. But the ground kept the evidence longer than written history did. And that is why archaeology can feel so unsettling. Because it does not restore the past cleanly, it gives it back in pieces. So what exactly did they find beneath Frankfurt? A vast Roman sanctuary buried below a modern neighborhood. A sacred district with unusual architecture, elaborate interiors, ritual deposits, and one deeply disturbing human presence inside a well. A place active from the beginning of the 2nd century into at least the mid-3rd. A place important enough to survive in the ground after it vanished from memory. But the most haunting part is not what we know. It is what we do not. Why was that skeleton there? What happened in the sanctuary's final years? Why did this place take a form unlike the others? Was it only a place of prayer, offerings, and sacred meals? Or did something happen here that even history failed to preserve clearly? The city forgot. The people vanished. The sanctuary fell into darkness, but the ground did not forget. And now, nearly 2,000 years later, it is giving the story back one fragment at a time. Just enough to prove that some of the most important moments in human history are not lost, only buried. Subscribe to Light Will Global